Hey, Robbie, and hey, everybody. I'm Josh from DAOStack. Natalia's also here. And Robbie, I think you wanted me to start by kind of introducing DAOStack a little bit and what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. So DAOStack is a platform for decentralized governance. It's basically designed to catalyze the future of collaboration, sometimes called a WordPress for decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs, also called operating system for collective intelligence sometimes. Basically what DAOStack is, it's a complete set of resources, a multi-layered stack that is useful anytime you want to coordinate a crowd or a large group of people, or even a medium-sized group of people, to make really effective collective decisions together efficiently, effectively, and resiliently, which means non-fragile to some of the trappings of centralized decision-making in traditional environments. So complete set of tools for self-organization around shared goals and values by large groups of people. It includes a very flexible backend technology, as well as various very user-friendly application development environments and front-end applications themselves. That's a little bit about DAOStack. We've been together as a team, arguably for years, some people in the organization, but really most of the team that exists today came together about 6 months ago. Mainly in service, of the last 6 months have been a large focus of the project anyway, has been our token sale. And we just wrapped our token sale about a week ago. It took place in 3 phases: a private sale, a so-called pre-sale, although that was really truly a public sale, and that anybody could get whitelisted and participate except for US persons, and then a main sale. And I would say that those were very successful. The main sale in particular sold out in about a minute last week. And the pre-sale also was oversubscribed by nearly double. And we returned the unused ETH according to a formula that we had previously announced. So by all measures, I would say our token sale was quite successful, demonstrated a lot of interest from the larger community in our project. And we're excited. We're really excited that we've received this kind of validation from the larger community, as well as the resources at this time to actually begin doing what we really came here to do, which was not just to run a token sale, but actually to build a collaborative economy that ultimately we imagine really shifting the incentive structures by which humans are able to operate and collaborate on this planet.
Awesome.
So that's a little bit about where we're coming from.
Yeah, that's a fantastic intro. I think the goal of today is just to record some of the best practices and learn how you were able to launch this successful sale, and then share this with other community managers in the space so they can have access to the same tools. So just to get started, we're all going to just do a quick, 30-second intro. So I'm Robbie. I'm at TrueBits, and really obsessed with community and helping share best practices across the space.
I'm MP. I'm with Golem and Ethereum Community Fund, and I really like helping out.
Severin, go ahead. I think you're on mute.
Oh yeah, I'm here. I'm Severin. I'm running a small platform based around community building, and I work with, collaborate with people around the world to help them build communities. I was part of an ICO earlier this year. I'm very curious about the space and about the future of decentralization, so I'm basically just here to learn and understand.
Awesome. Natalia, you're next.
Hi, I'm Natalia with DAOStack as well, and I'm very much into building bridges in between silos. So love being part of this community.
Brady.
My name is Brady Mckellen. I helped with the District 0x token sale earlier this year, and got a little bit of a background in regulatory compliance as well. So I got some unique experience there, but that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Nice. Maria.
Hi, Maria, or Teta. I'm with a legal blog, just a legal community around the world, and I'm very interested in and learn today more about the main sale, all the the path including the private sale, because I think we are seeing less public sales now this year, and we can discuss this. I'm interested in learning that from you guys.
Gonzalo.
Hey, I'm Gon. I work at Zeppelin, and I'm also interested in learning how, like, experiences and what went well and what didn't work as well on the ICO. So thanks for having me.
Connor.
Yo guys, I'm Connor. I work at TrueBit, operations manager, work with Robbie on kind of legal compliance stuff. My background is as a lawyer, and I'm working with Zeppelin 2 now on a transaction permission layer, which is hopefully partially a solution to some of the problems we're facing today.
Awesome. So, just before this screen share started, we had everybody post the topics that they were interested in and voted on them in a community way. I'm just going to pop this open so everyone can see. So as you can see from my screen here, we have a number of topics. We're going to cover each today in about 5 minutes. I'll be the moderator, so after around 5 minutes, I'll cut off the topic, and then it'll allow for sort of 1 to 2 minutes of questions. So, and then at the end, we'll save some time for any questions we didn't get to. Hopefully, we have an awesome conversation. I think we can start out with which takeaways or lessons learned do you have from conducting the ICO? So let's kind of a broad one. Maybe if you had to pick the first 2 things that came to your mind, what would those be?
For me, it's just that relationships are everything. That's something I carry in my life, but shown to be real, even in running an ICO. With the team, with our advisors, with the broader community, with contributors. Really focusing on nurturing those relationships was key for everything. And that the shilling is real. There is a lot of bullshit in the space, and it was important to stick to our integrity. That pays off in the end. I'm happy to talk more about that, but just overall, those are the main 2 for me.
That's awesome. So to dig into that a little bit more, the integrity, what were some exciting stories about where you had to use integrity and maybe were surprised?
Well, I'm new to the blockchain community, and for me initially, from leading the campaign, I was talking to a bunch of folks about, just the kind of strategy that we would, that a lot of people thought that we should use, and I realized that even when certain people had a bigger status than us, they don't necessarily know what's best for our project. The DAOStack team had been working on the product for a long time before the ICO. We really wanted to continue focusing on that aspect as well. And highlighting a product and building community around that. Many people told me that actually, I don't know, I was really surprised that people thought we shouldn't focus on that, and that we should really build so much hype, and you mostly also spend a lot more money on hype. I don't know, Josh, if you want to jump a little bit on that, but I don't feel comfortable going into many details also, guys, in some of these aspects, just for legal constraints, because for the call being recorded, but feel free we can jump into private conversations as well after all.
Yeah, so what I would suggest we do, the goal is there's only 8 people here, there's 170 in the group, so it's to try to get as much information as we can recorded, but perhaps we can end 15 minutes early at 5:45, and if there's other questions people have that didn't get answered, we can ask after the broadcast, so then, everyone can get their questions answered, but then there's also something to share with the broader group. Does that sound like a good idea for people?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cool. And Josh, lessons learned. What are sort of the 1 and 2 items that pop into your head?
One of my key takeaways is around how quickly we were actually able to go from what seemed like pretty low awareness to apparently more than enough awareness. I was surprised. 6 weeks out from our token sale, I was, let's put it this way, I was letting go of attachment to, whether or not we would hit our hard cap, and our team was as well. It's not something we were overly obsessed with. But what was remarkable is that how much enthusiasm, came out of the woodwork for our project really as soon as we began to make a more earnest effort to get the word out. And it just grew very, very rapidly. So that's one of my takeaways is there actually is demand for high integrity projects, and it's not all that hard necessarily to build a buzz in a short, or build awareness in a short amount of time.
Awesome. And then maybe just digging into that a little more, go and talk a bit about the tactics of how you actually built some of this awareness, and going from 6 weeks out, not knowing about the hard cap, to all of a sudden doubling or being oversubscribed. How did that happen?
Yeah, Natalia, you want to speak to that first?
I think it was really important to build relationships with. So first, we have this group called pollinators, which are mostly folks from either from our general community chat, or people that we met in conferences that were super interested in the project. And with them, we built this program where they wrote about DAOStack, and they were sharing use cases around it. And I feel like it was super helpful to have that kind of high quality engagement that kind of rippled into a larger engagement. Yeah. And also relationships with our advisors and certain influencers. that it's incredible when, for example, we're partners with Gnosis, and when we launched, they released an article about the use case and just a little bit about a partnership. Then that also built a big momentum.
Yes.
For our campaign. Josh, do you want to continue?
I can check off a few things that I made a couple notes on in response to this question. So some tips would be importance of an Asian outreach. If you look at the breakdown of our token sale participation geographically, it definitely skews non-North American. Part of that is probably because we didn't allow U.S. participants, but let's just even say it didn't even skew European, particularly. Europe, Russia, and then Asia all played very significantly. Let's just say that. So I think it's really important to have outreach in all of the different regions of the world. We have materials translated into at least half a dozen languages. And we also have round-the-clock community management support, because the times when we're asleep are actually some of the times when our largest communities are awake and asking questions. I think we did a really nice job of having our community managers, including myself and Natalia, be very responsive to questions on our Telegram chat.
And even our CEO, CTOs, the entire team was involved on our Telegram channel throughout the campaign.
Yeah, we had a very active, very lively channel. I would also just say an email list was really valuable. Maybe that goes without saying, but when it came time to open the whitelist and build our KYC, some of the largest bursts that we got in terms of filling our whitelist were the times when we emailed our list and said our whitelist is now open, or our whitelist now closes in a couple of days, or whatever it is. So definitely don't underestimate the power of a healthy email list. And like Natalia said, influencers were very, very helpful. We had some major influencers on our side for this project. And when we informally polled our Telegram community about where they've heard about the project, I heard it from such and such major influencer was a very, very common response. So that was a really good channel for us, and good partnerships there. And we also had a great film, which I think was a worthy endeavor and a worthy investment to do a film well. And then our strategic partners, like Natalia said, for Sapien Network is a decentralized social network building on our stack, and for them to just let their audience know that was happening, and other similar situations like that was really, really helpful.
So that really sets up well for the next question. People were wondering, how did you grow Telegram? Was that the most important channel? You sort of started getting into that. Could you dig in a bit deeper as to, was there specific events outside of influencers that drove people to the channel? How did you identify the influencers to use? And then what were you doing in the channel specifically that kind of created more growth or engagement?
Mm-hmm. Natalia, you want to speak to that?
I think you can go ahead. You were more involved in that.
Yeah. I think I'm passing it off because I don't know that we have a great single answer. It's not one of the places that I can load up a single tip or two for this audience and say this is how to grow your Telegram. I think it was really a wide variety of different types of factors. If I had to pick one or two that seemed to make a very significant difference, it's going back to announcements from our strategic partners to their audiences. I think we saw a very significant influx at those times. Yeah, and maybe some of the influencers as well. When they would publish about us, we would get an influx of Telegram activity.
Now, I just want to throw it out to the group here for a minute, potentially Teta and Brady. How are what you're hearing now compares to the ICOs you sort of ran last year? Are there major differences or similarities? What's standing out for you?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I'm just saying, from what you've heard so far, are there a lot of similarities or differences between what the environment was last year and how you sort of build your communities?
In terms of building communities, I think there's almost like a hive mind. A lot of people are starting to migrate into we have a lot of talk about integrity and trying to focus on really building relationships. And I think that's the biggest one for me. Even that was some of the biggest lessons learned is learning how to kind of cut through the crowd and build those relationships with people. I think is the most important thing, because I think token sales become very noisy. And that becomes a running theme. So it's you want to build relationships and build high quality relationships with people, and you want to show that your integrity and find people in the community that also have similar like-mindedness and similar integrity. So it takes time. It's a tough one, but I think I'm seeing that theme, and it's just increasing in quality overall.
Now, are these just so we understand, because it's kind of a vague word, is this, when you say an influencer, is it, somebody who writes content? Is it other projects? Are they investors? Who are generally, these people, these high integrity people? What type of people are they, I guess?
Well, all of those types of people are important. When I've been speaking about influencers in the last few minutes, I've been referring to content producers. So this could be, YouTube influencers doing either project reviews or interviews with staff. This could be podcasts. This could be Twitter, although I don't think that's actually as potent or was as potent for us. I think a lot of our influencer reach came from video and audio. People with audiences. Who were, aligned with our project.
Teto, how does this compare to some of the stuff you've been preparing?
Well, there's what they say about the like building an engagement, a base. You need a core community. I saw the same with you guys. Before the hype or before the growth from they're coming from Asia and Russia, they already have, because I've been sharing with Josh, Natalia, and the community. They also have that, this core community. If you don't do that, as Brady says, I think is hard, because otherwise you're gonna have, like 10,000 people asking for whatever. You have to say, read the documentation, at least read the white paper, what they did. And it's the same what we have been doing is create or build this core community at the beginning, and they wait for the growth and the hype. And the same community gonna kick off the spammers, or so you rely on your community basically. So that's what I see they have been doing. We have to, I think, Brady, the same.
Awesome. So that leads into the next question. Josh, Natalia, how was it dealing with spammers? What type of attacks did you see? Any like crazy instances or funny stories to share?
For us, I think the craziest thing was when when the pre-sale opened, we got this like insane amount of scammers, and on our Telegram channel, it was like this rain of scam and spam, and we were on the Zoom call together, like, wow, okay, this is interesting. And yeah, I mean, actually, it was way less than I expected in general. In terms of scammers throughout our sales process. But yeah, when we opened the pre-sale, it was insane. And we set up the bot so it would just delete everything. And then for actually the main sale, we decided to just mute the channel for I think 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, to avoid all of that.
Was really something. I mean, just to put numbers around it, I would say that we were getting more than one scam or phishing message posted on our Telegram every second, like probably 100 a minute for the first few minutes of our actual sale. They're just trying to imagine that this is the moment when people are coming to the Telegram to actually look for information on where to send their ETH. So they're just all coordinated with these bots to post all these scam addresses all at the same time. It was insane. I will say, I don't think it worked. We heard almost no reports, certainly single digits, but I think it might have been 1, 2, or 3 of people who actually sent ETH, and small amounts too, to a scam address. I think we had just done a good job of educating the public, or maybe the public is already just educated on how this ought to work, and we were very, very clear on a secure process for how to actually submit to our token sale. So I'm not sure I'm with Natalia that there were less scam attempts over the course of our token sale than I expected, but they were certainly less successful than I expected.
Oh, that's great, because you hear about this as a major problem. Maybe we talk a little about some of the scams you're seeing, or where you're seeing like the most effective one. It sounds like the major one you saw was posts of addresses in the Telegram chat. That was the.
I would not say that was the most sophisticated by any means. We did see a complete replica of our website. So there was a point when if you Googled DAOStack, the first result you saw was a Google AdWords. That basically, whose URL was like DAOStackToken.com or whatever, or .io. And you went to that site and it was a code for code, design for design, complete replica of our entire website with the white paper hosted on there, hosted by all of the different links worked. The email sign up friggin' worked. It was amazing. It was actually, pretty impressive.
We were all impressed by it.
And it's a total scam.
Were you prepared for that? Sorry. Were you prepared for that in advance, or just...
I would say that we thought we were prepared for that in advance, because we thought that we would just handle it at the time and call Google and whatever. Once we realized that it was taking longer to actually disable these phishing attempts than we wanted, we actually onboarded a phishing specialist team who was just available almost around the clock. And I don't know how those guys do it, but they were taking down, Twitter accounts, fake Twitter accounts within minutes, websites, Medium articles, fake Telegram announcement channels, Google ads.
Mm-hmm.
We even had, by the way, people calling our Telegram, calling our active community members and saying they were part of the DAOStack whitelist tech support team, and there was a problem with their whitelist application, their KYC application, and they were going to help.
So it does go from to pretty sophisticated. Perhaps you would be up for sharing in the communities group the name of the phishing consultants. Might be an interesting thing for people who are thinking about doing an ICO to prepare in advance using these tools. It sounds like once you're live, it's really tough to communicate fast.
Definitely. I'd say it was totally worth it. It was super helpful. And during the sale itself, right, like when we released the pre-sale and the main sale, it was very good to just have them there live with us, taking down all the scams.
Interesting. So, I guess going to anything that's done, did that answer your question?
Well, yeah, I actually have a tip that goes beyond all of that, but I come from a quite privileged situation in terms of ICOs. Background, I didn't do the Golem ICO. I did the Polkadot ICO, and at that time I was working for Polkadot, so I did it from end to start and everything, obviously. And we were lucky enough to Clarity as building partners, so we developed such a sophisticated system that KYC'd and then made you contribute via the same system. So then scams were almost to zero. The only thing that we actually got was a duplicate site that gave a NIF address, but since our system had been so sophisticated and had been KYCing people, and it was the only way to contribute to the ICO, and people were kind of aware of it, and we also raised awareness, then that wasn't a problem. And then from the tooling that I have been able to see, actually, Zeppelin did also a really good tool. We were lucky enough to build it in-house at Parity, but Zeppelin did also a tool to crowdfund, and I thought that was also really good, and that avoided a lot of phishing and scams and so on. Duplicate sites, yes, do happen. Now AdWords has removed that, has removed placing them first, so that helps a lot. And then you just need to educate the community, and by all means, don't give the URL. But that's about it. Build a system that's robust, that's able to send the contributions to the right place and avoid any duplicates via this system.
And then for those looking for those tools, the Parity tool is called PICOPS. It's PICOPS, and the Zeppelin tool, I believe, is called Coral. So for those who are watching, you can Google either of those or reach out and you can connect. Okay, that's really cool on the scams. It's super interesting also. Moving on to, this is more of a fundraising question. Determine the amount to do in a pre-sale, the amount to do in the ICO as a hard cap. What was enough? I know at TrueBit, these are things that we're thinking through right now. How much funding does the project need, and how to actually determine hard cap versus uncapped and the stages. Can you talk a bit about how those decisions were made?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. In our case, the formula was, it was triangulated from a number of different factors. In terms of how much we believe that we needed, we looked at 4 to 5 years of operating budget for our core for our core company function, basically. And of course, that might change as things change or we grow or whatever. But to execute on the roadmap that we imagined for the next 4 or 5 years, we imagined that we needed about $10 million. And then we also, one of the niftiest things maybe about our token sale, I think, is that most of the funds are actually reserved for management by a DAO, by a community fund that we are in the process of creating and actually launches in the next few weeks. That's called the Genesis DAO. And we looked at what would be a good size of incubator fund for the Genesis DAO to be able to fund projects related to the ecosystem that we're creating, the collaborative economy we're creating. So it was a product of what we really think we need. But then also just triangulating from the other direction, we felt it was really important, not to raise a number that would be or seem out of alignment when it came time to sort of be evaluated by the marketplace. We'd much rather have a project that we are asking for a $40 million market valuation or whatever, something in that neighborhood at the outset, and then have the market say that, well, actually, we really, after 6 months of trading or whatever, we really believe that this is an $80 or $100 million project or more. That would be a much better scenario than to try to stake this claim and maybe raise $80 or $100 million on fever or hype, and then for people to look at the project, and rightly so, and say, why is this worth, or why does this need $80 or $100 million? So a feeling of integrity around valuation was a big part of it for us.
That's amazing. That's just really good to hear. I really think the Genesis DAO sounds cool. Can you maybe dig into that a bit more? Is this like the return of, like the Ethereum DAO? Is this kind of I'm looking forward to seeing some of these live. Can you talk a bit about it?
Natalia, you want to say anything?
I just want to say it's not the return of the DAO. We've carefully not holding funds in the contract, but yeah, we're very excited about the launch of Genesis DAO. We're getting started by launching Alchemy, which is the decentralized budgeting DApp that's been built on top of DAOStack. And so we're launching an initial private test round with our community, and then really excited to open it up for the broad community. Josh, do you have any more comments? We're going to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, the Genesis DAO is going to be an amazing project, really, in some ways, the first of its kind, and definitely different from the original DAO in a number of ways. Like Natalia said, we're not actually storing funds on the DAO contract, so any exploitation wouldn't actually result in the leaking of any funds. Also, the original DAO never had an interface to collaborate on decision making. An application, and so we're building that in from the beginning. And really, the Genesis DAO didn't have actually, the original DAO didn't actually have a true governance, a truly scalable and resilient governance system for determining how human input results in. It just didn't have very complete governance protocols, for determining how human input results in decision making and actions. And that's really. Those things are actually the foundation of what DAOStack is built on. As, by the way, I know are some other of the amazing DAO platforms in the space. District OX being one of them, a second layer one anyway, that's represented here. So hats off to a lot of the work that's been done since the days of the original DAO, and I'm very excited about this experiment that's going to happen with quite a bit of funding and resource to fund the new collaborative economy through the wisdom of the crowd.
Cool. So we're getting close to time. We're going to have one more question. I've seen a lot of teams who have been concerned this year about launching ICOs due to the SEC's guidance and sort of FUD that you see online. Can you talk a bit about and how you got comfortable with launching a main sale? And I mean, if you're not comfortable talking about it, that's fine, but it would be great to know, sort of what structure you went with.
Yeah, you mean legal structure or company structure, Robbie?
Yeah, so legal and company structure, and then what type of things, was there any things in the contract agreement that needed to be done to make sure it was definitely a utility? Was there some entity you sold out of outside of the US? Was there a particular vendor you that you really trusted? I think there's a lot of people who are really interested in these private rounds and are wondering how to public. So anything that you feel comfortable sharing around that, I think would be really helpful.
Great. Yeah. And Robbie, I think there's somebody whose mic is generating some noise. One of the most important decisions that we made was not to sell token in the US. I mean, that's just night and day, really, at this time. And there's trade-offs. I mean, we could have sold token in the US if we jumped through, basically made a number of sacrifices in terms of how the token sale would have been set up and how tokens would have been distributed that would have affected not only US, but actually worldwide. And at the end of the day, it wasn't even really close, based on anyway the perspectives of our US counsel. We ditched the US, and once we did so, I think the regulatory environment, regulatory challenges become largely alleviated. As far as the particular company structure that we have, we are a Gibraltar LTD, which is virtually a nonprofit. I think technically it's a LTD with no shareholders, and then we have an Israeli consulting company that basically is the source of payment for a number of our contractor relationships. So that's the structure that we have. Natalia, anything you want to add there?
Not really. You covered it.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. So just to get some more interaction between the group, last round, if everybody wants to just go around in the same order as we did intros and say maybe, one thing that they think is a good technique for building community or for ICOs or something they learned on the call, just to get some feedback to close the loop. I'll start. For me, listening to this, I think it hits home that you need your core community and focusing on things that don't scale at the start. So one-to-one interviews with customers, calling them and talking to them for 20 minutes about why they're excited about your project, with developers, with investors. These like one-to-one personal connections are super important when you're building out your team. And that's what I'm hearing also worked really well for you guys.
From my side, in regards of community identifying as well, the community members that have always been there and have read your white paper and got really, really excited from a very early stage, and make them part of the process. It's really nice to have the community also regulating and helping you throughout the ICO process, because this is a very, very heavy and emotional process. So you need, for your peace of mind, these allies that maybe don't work with you because everyone is on the same emotional mindset at that time.
So we're just going to go through and I'll name everybody, and feel free to either say something you think is a great process, or if you have a question that was unanswered, feel free to also address to DAOStack. Severin, go for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of things have been covered already. I found it very interesting also from my own ICO experience earlier this year to hear everyone's experience and especially the problems with spammers and how to work with that. I think in general, my main rule of thumb is, like, as you said, the core community members, keep them engaged and always keep them in the loop with information. Like, especially if things get wild and you're super busy, you often forget, like, hey, there's this bunch of people that actually waits for feedback from us or input from us. So keeping people in the loop and trying to be as efficient and as personal as possible with that, I think is key in keeping a community and growing it from there.
Awesome. Brady.
Yeah, I think I'd like to speak on something that it goes along with what we've talked about a lot, but I learned some interesting lessons when I first started trying to build the community, and you tend to get into that almost whack-a-mole habit whenever you have scammers and spammers and trolls and people coming into your community, and it's hard to really sift through all those people to find the good community members. But like one of my main mods, that's one of the more trusted people in the community, he was actually spamming and being disruptive when he first came in, and I had seen him in another channel, and he was actually upset that I had kicked him out. So I kind of reached out and said, hey, would you like to come back to the community? And now he's one of the more trusted community members. So it's interesting that you do need to get out of that habit of whack-a-mole and try to really reach out and connect to people, because you don't really know what they're going through personally, and sometimes it might just be that they don't know about your project very well. They might just be having a bad day, and it's interesting what you'll learn if you do just reach out and try to be active in other communities, because that's where I found him, was in another community.
Yeah, that's an awesome point we didn't cover, is that, you know, every crypto team here has their own community. Sometimes joining a few of them can be helpful to pick up best practices and just, you know, expand your network. Thanks for that. Tet?
Okay, this is a question for Josh, maybe. Based on your experience today, okay, do you think you can get the same level of engagement in the community without, or with no ICO, but using any other way, like an airdrop or community rewards? I mean, you went through a private sale, you have the funds, okay, or you have funds, and then you have this community, which is a engaged community as yours. If it were today, would you consider not running an ICO, a public sale?
I wonder if Natalia would consider not running a public sale if we could do it again.
I personally wouldn't. I mean, I would try. Okay, let me step back for a moment. I would probably, I think it's very important to open it up for the community to participate. And I wonder if we would be able to find other ways to do it. I just personally don't appreciate, the whole, I think just how the whole market right now feels so misaligned, with what we're building and what we really mean by community. If you look at our channel right now, it's like so many traders, right? It's just like a trading channel right now. And we, of course, we have our pollinators, and we have like our trusted community and people that have high quality discussions, especially the ones that came from the beginning. In the beginning, when our channel was like 200 people, then we were seeing so many super high quality conversations. But yeah, I honestly don't know. It's just, I wonder if we would be able to find other ways.
Echo, I don't know either, Teta. It's hard for me to say if it would be possible to achieve the kind of community awareness without a public token sale. I probably enjoyed. I enjoyed it. Maybe I came away feeling more aligned with the process in some way than Natalia. Although I completely agree that the market in general seems so full of hype that's really misaligned with kind of the organic values that we hold at the project at DAOStack. But I enjoyed it. I probably would do it again. But on the other hand, if there were a way to build this kind of community awareness without a public sale, I think in a lot of ways that would be better.
And actually, I do think that there are many ways to build it without a public sale. And it depends a lot on if you have a target market, and if you have a specific groups and tribes in the community that you're trying to reach. I'm really excited to building community now in our post-ICO phase. I think that's super valuable. I think it's really valuable to tap into the non-blockchain communities. I'm super excited about that, and like just raising more awareness, outside of that. So yeah, and I think it's also really important for us for doing this, right? Like different projects getting together and expanding our horizons on how to do that, because we can shape this process in many ways if we want to.
Awesome. And just a little plug there, in the community's Telegram, Enigma and Status and David Spinks and Brady, and there's a lot of people who've done ICOs and are now trying to build their actual user base. So hopefully as you guys convert to that, feel free to ask questions to any of these people, reach out direct, start sharing best practices. I think, over the next year, as all projects convert, there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff we can experiment with. So looking forward to that. So just end off with Gonzalo and Connor quickly, and then I'll stop the broadcast and we'll allow for a couple questions if anyone had that they wanted off non-recorded.
Sure. Quick takeaways from my side was how quickly you can build hype if you want and how they achieved it. Also the importance of building relationships, and maybe the Asian outreach and how important it was for your token sale.
From my end, I thought it was really important as to being realistic about your valuation and keeping that in line with your sense of your project. I know that there's a ton of interest in a lot of projects, and I'm sure many of you could run projects and ICOs that are raise a huge amount of money, but there are obviously implications for your project down the line, and also that probably draws a lot of attention you don't want to draw. I have a question. One question is about with respect to distribution methods. Do you guys consider the private placement airdrop option? I'd love to hear whether you did and pros cons. And then also, are there concerns about American retail investors rather buying your tokens off in an exchange?
Just quickly on airdrops. What did you say? Private airdrops. So this would be
sorry, like private placement and then an airdrop.
Oh,
so like a SAFT round, yeah, and then an airdrop.
Right. Well, we certainly had a SAFT round or equivalent contribution agreement. So that was the nature of our private round was future future purchase agreements, and it was significant. We had a lot of interest in that round. As far as airdrop, we felt that airdrop was too inorganic a strategy for us. It sort of fell more into the category of buzz building or hype building. What we did do instead is we set up bounty programs, including a small reward for certain specific audiences, like the audience of one of our strategic partners. A specific reward for them to take certain actions getting involved in the project. So it functioned a little bit like a specialized small airdrop, but it really actually drove genuine interest and engagement. So more like a bounty. And even that overall was a relatively small part of what we did. And then your last question was around, one more time?
Around sales to American retail investors.
Yeah, so we can't control what happens on the market, and I don't think that legally we are obligated to control what happens on the market. Although officially, token buyers are requested and required to sign an agreement on our transaction page that says that they will not transact with U.S. buyers.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So we're going to stop the broadcast in a minute. Just before we do, I'm going to share the screen one more time. And just for help for future reference, if you can just, at any time, doesn't have to be now, but in this Trello board, there's two columns. One is plus and one is improvements. So these are things that you thought went well, and these are things that could be improved. They're just stuff that I look at after the video just to see, does it make sense to collect people's ideas this way? Should we do it beforehand? Does everybody have feel like they had a chance to speak? Was the presentation exciting? Could there be other topics? So, just to get some feedback that we can use to make these lean coffees, which we try to do every month, more effective. And the goal, again, is to learn and share best practices. So with that, really appreciate Josh and Natalia taking the time. Congrats on such a successful ICO in 2018. Really awesome, hard work, and good to see. And even more, feel special for you guys taking the time to share this with the entire community, which is appreciative. With that, do you guys have any last words or things you want to say?
It's been a real pleasure, and yeah, I'm available for more questions, and any other way that I can help the community, consider me a resource.
Cool. I'm going to turn off the broadcast now.